Last time on Falcon Radio Theater.
I can't believe it. The studio door's locked and the key's missing. How are we going to get in?
Maybe we could bust in the door? Break a window?
I tried it. Those things are built tough.
We've only got 15 minutes until the show starts. What do we do?
We could go under.
You've been playing too much Minecraft.
No, really. We'll just dig our way in.
Man, I don't know about this plan, but I can't think of anything better. So let's find some shovels.
Dig, 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 dig. Man, it's dark down here. We should have brought a flashlight or something.
Well, if I'd known we were going to be doing this...
Do you think we're underneath the studio yet?
I don't know. Let's tunnel up and find out.
Dig, 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 dig.
This looks like the cafeteria.
Oh, great. We totally lost all sense of direction down there. All right, let's see. The studio is to the left and about 20 feet forward of Gwyn. Dave, what are you doing?
The cookies! They're right there!
Forget about the cookies. We have 10 minutes and 20 feet to go.
Fine.
Dig, 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 dig. I think we're getting close. Let's pop up and take a look.
Wow, we're in the library.
How did we get here? We went in the opposite direction.
Shh, keep it down, Walt. This is a library. Which reminds me, I need to go return a book. I'll be right back.
What? We don't have time for that. What are you doing?
It's due today. I'll be right back.
Dave, you better get here fast. People are starting to look at me funny. Hello? Sorry about the mess. We're, fixing the plumbing. It'll be done real soon.
All right, I'm back. Let's go.
Wow, that was so not fast.
Give me a break, man. I was going to get a fine.
Whatever. We've got to get moving. Dig, 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 dig.
Is this it?
I don't know. It's dark. Let me find a light switch.
All right, we made it. Although we tunneled right through the couch.
Yeah, I never used it anyway.
We're just in time. 30 seconds to airtime. Mics.
Check. Scripts.
Check. Change of clothes?
Yeah, about that. When we get back to your place, can I borrow some stuff? Because I was not ready for this.
Yeah. Man, I'm so excited for this show.
And now, the next episode of Falcon Radio Theater.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Falcon Radio Theater. My name is Walter Lutsch.
I'm David Matsui.
And we're your hosts for the evening. Introducing our wonderful guest actress, Kat Miller.
Hi, good to be here. Thanks for listening.
Before we get into the scripts, I just thought I'd throw out a quick reminder. If you are a writer or an actor, and if you think you've got a script you'd like to hear produced, or if you'd just like to come on and be a guest actor or actress for a little while, please shoot us an email at falconradiotheater@gmail.com. That's theater spelled with an R-E at the end, not E-R. Also, if you're already listening and you don't have the skills to be a writer or an actor, but just enjoy what we're doing, please keep on listening, because we always need more listeners, and try and rope in some friends if you can. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/falconradiotheater. Spelled the same way. And we're going to get into our first script.
The Last Day of School by Dwayne Yancey.
It's the last day of school. In the high school classroom, a frantic and paranoid history teacher named Mr. Lester has piles upon piles of toilet paper stacked around his room. He wears a military helmet and carries a pair of binoculars. He's pacing back and forth in front of the window, peering through the binoculars, muttering to himself.
All right, I know you're out there. What's it gonna be this year? Think you're gonna just surprise me, huh? Well, not this year. This year I'm ready for you.
A young teacher knocks on the door, Miss Speedwell.
Mr. Lester.
What? Oh, that's just you.
What in the world?
You startled me. For a moment there, I thought they'd snuck up on me. That would be just like them, you know? Try the old pincer movement.
Just like who? And why are you wearing all that? And what's with all the toilet paper?
Defensive positions.
Defensive positions? Against what?
That's how the Spartans won the Battle of Thermopylae, you know.
With toilet paper?
No, of course not. Silly math teacher, with defense. That strong defense is always a force multiplier. That's one of the basic principles of warfare. I teach that in the first 6 weeks, usually on the third Thursday after Labor Day.
I thought you taught history.
History, warfare, same thing. Unless you're one of those namby-pamby types who wants to teach about culture.
What are you talking about? And what's with all the toilet paper?
Seniors, last day of school. Can't trust them.
So you've raided every bathroom in the school.
Better me than them. Preemptive strike.
Against what?
Against the seniors TPing the school. Don't you know anything?
Apparently not. This is just my first year here.
Well, you'll learn. Probably the hard way, just like the rest of us have.
So, is this like some kind of tradition or something? The seniors always TP the school on the last day?
Doesn't have to be a TP job. That's part of the problem with being on defense. The offense always has the advantage. They know where they're going to strike. Defense is always stuck fighting the last war, and I teach a lot of wars.
I see. So, what else have they done?
You mean what haven't they done? Just when I think I've seen it all, they pull another one. Live chickens, live goats. You won't believe the things they could do with livestock.
They let them loose in the school?
In the school, on the school, up the flagpole.
The flagpole?
That poor goat. Tied him up with duct tape and rope and hoisted him up pretty as you please.
Oh my.
And you know the worst part about it?
Getting him down?
They painted him. Red, white, and blue.
That's kind of clever.
Clever? Whose side are you on here, Miss Speedwell? This is war, I tell you. War! I will not let those seniors make a mockery of the last day of school. Yeah, I wonder what it's going to be this year. You never know when they're going to strike. Or how.
But aren't they, afraid?
Afraid? Afraid of what?
Getting caught.
I don't know what they taught you in that teacher's college, Miss Speedwell, but you've got a lot to learn. What can you do to a senior on the last day of school? No more detention, no more in-school suspension, no more out-of-school suspension either. There's nothing you can do to a senior on their last day that they're afraid of. Nothing. Not a thing.
You could withhold their diplomas. If what they did was really bad enough, I mean.
Ha! Tried that one.
And?
Lawyers. School board got involved. Believe me, you don't want to get the school board involved in anything. Especially when you're 12 years away from retirement. Maybe less than that if they offer another one of those early buyout offers. No, best that the school board doesn't even know your name.
Oh. I guess that means you don't want the Teacher of the Year award either, then.
Ha! An old fart like me isn't ever going to be Teacher of the Year.
Oh? Why is that?
Look at me. Do I look like a Teacher of the Year to you?
Well, right now, you look like General Patton.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's just one problem with that.
What's that?
Nobody liked General Patton.
Oh. Well, I just remembered the name. I don't really know anything about him.
Eisenhower didn't want anything to do with him. But you know what?
What's that?
Patton got the job done, didn't he? Busted through the German lines when all the others were still bogged down in the hedgerows of France.
I suppose. I really wasn't much on history.
World War II. We get to that every April. Unless we miss too many days on account of snow during the winter. Then sometimes it's May. But anyway, the point is, somebody like me is never going to get one of those awards, so no point even thinking about it.
Well, you never know.
They're always going to go to somebody younger, somebody prettier, somebody they can put on the front page of the paper. A guy like me, I don't have time for that kind of foolishness anyway.
What kind of foolishness do you mean?
The sucking up, the brown-nosing, the butt-kissing.
With the administration, you mean?
Administration, hell. I'm talking about the students. Those things are nothing but popularity contests.
I see.
The school board asks the administration, and the administration asks the PTA, and the PTA gets it all from their kids anyway. It's the kids running the darn school nowadays, not the teachers. The teachers are just here to take roll and make sure the place doesn't get burned down. We're just glorified babysitters now. Education's got nothing to do with it. Maybe that's what they want teachers to be like nowadays, but not me. I'm strictly old school. I miss the days when you could just smack the little hellions on the knuckles to teach them a lesson. Can't do that now, though. You do that now, you'll really find yourself in front of the school board, and you definitely don't want them to know your name then.
No, I suppose not. Well, anyway, I just came by to say that...
A student enters, knocking on the open door. Mr. Lester's back is to the door, so he doesn't see the student enter. Excuse me, Mr. Lester?
What? Oh. You almost gave me a heart attack. Thought you were sneaking up on me.
Sorry, I just wanted to say thanks, Mr. Lester.
Thanks for what?
For being such a great teacher. You really taught me a lot, and, well, thanks. You were my favorite. The student exit. Mr. Lester stares.
Aw, that was sweet.
She looks at Mr. Lester.
What's wrong?
I can't for the life of me remember his name.
The end. That was The Last Day of School by Dwayne Yancey. Narrator and student were played by Dave Matsui, Mr. Lester was played by Walter Lutsch, and Mrs. Speedwell was played by Kat Miller.
And for our next script of the evening, we're going to do Text Messages Hurt More When You're Sitting at the Airport by Alex Broun.
One evening at a gate in Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, Kane, A young man is sitting listening to an iPod, reading a book. After a few moments, Doris, a middle-aged woman, walks up. She struggles with a large backpack. Doris puffs and pants and trying to catch her breath. She looks at Kane, trying to make contact, but Kane is oblivious to her presence. She sits a few seats away from Kane. Kane's iPhone vibrates in his pocket. He takes it out and looks at it. He smiles as he recognizes the sender. He opens the message. After a few moments, his face starts to change. He swears loudly, and Doris is stunned. She looks over at him as he continues reading. Then he swears again. Doris stands up and goes over to him, wondering what is wrong. She gestures to him.
What?
Doris points at Kane's earphones as he yanks them out of his ears.
Crap, sorry. Did I just...
You might want to wind down the volume, or we may have an international incident.
I'm sorry, it's just...
Bad news?
You could say that.
Kane looks at the message again and swears explosively.
Could you maybe choose a different expletive? I'm starting to take that one personally.
Kane looks up at her for a second, beginning to tap out a reply.
What are you doing?
Sending a reply.
Is that such a good idea? Many an email written in anger has gotten me in trouble. Just ask husband number 3. We arrive in Singapore in 13 hours. Wait till then.
13 hours?
I know it seems like a lifetime at your age, but it's not that long. Trust me.
A lot can happen in 13 hours.
Bake a cake, complete a triathlon, watch the Mahabharata.
Kane finishes typing.
Done.
Did you at least spell check it first?
Punctuation isn't too important at this point.
As long as you didn't write buy 1.2 million shares instead of sell 1.2 million shares.
Kane looks at her.
So it's a girl then.
Kane looks away.
You don't look like the buy and sell type. Husband number 1 played the market. I can usually pick them. But then they always don't look like the buy and sell type either. Look at that Jeff Stuckenberg from What's-His-Face.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Listen, love, if you're worth $25 billion, it doesn't matter what people call you.
So how do you know it's a girl?
To get a reaction like that, it either had to be a girl or a crapload of money. And since it's not that, it had to be a girl. Unless, of course, it's a boy.
Kane looks at her.
Okay, it's a girl.
Kane looks at his phone.
She's not going to reply.
How do you know?
Well, not before we get onto the plane.
How do you know?
Motherly intuition.
Kane looks at her.
You've got a nasty pair of eyes, you know that?
You're the one initiating this conversation.
I'm just trying to help.
How do you know she's not going to reply? You didn't even read a message.
No, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't, "Hi, babe, can't wait to see you. Kiss, kiss." I'd say it was probably closer to, "Hi, babe, you dumped."
It's not what it said.
What word are they using these days? Outmoded, deleted, I'm taking you off of my friends list.
She didn't dump me.
Let me read the message then.
It's personal.
She dumped you.
She did not dump me.
Doris holds out her hand for the phone. Kane reluctantly gives Doris the phone. Doris reads the message, pausing to reread once before handing it back to Kane.
D-U-M-P-E-D.
That's not what it said. I'll show you.
Kane brings the phone to his ear as he begins to make a call.
Please tell me you're not calling her.
She didn't dump me.
Hang up the phone.
She would never dump me.
She won't answer.
I don't get dumped.
No, of course you don't. Just hang up the phone.
It's ringing.
She won't answer.
She'll answer.
Please hang up.
She'll answer.
No, she won't. And whatever you do, don't leave a message.
I can if I like.
Don't leave a message. That's what ended it with husband number 2.
It's going to voicemail.
Doris stands in front of Kane, mouthing the word no repeatedly.
Hi, babe. It's me.
Doris tries to wrest the phone out of Kane's hand. Kane tries to hold her off, moving around the terminal, while still talking on the phone.
I'm at the airport. Just got your message. Wondering if we could talk.
Kane continues to fend Doris off. Doris begins to try and yank Kane's arm so that the phone will be away from his face.
Everything's cool. It would just be good to
Kane begins having to pause in his message as he struggles to keep his grip on the phone.
talk.
Finally, Kane glares at Doris and she heaves a heavy sigh, holding up her hands in surrender.
Anyway, my plane is leaving soon, so call me back. Or send me a text. Just want to know everything's okay. It's a really long flight and I won't be able to sleep if I don't hear from you, so...
Doris rolls her eyes and begins to mime digging a hole.
Okay, so hear from you soon. Call me or text. Not sure what's happened, but we can work it out. We can work anything out as long as we're together. Love you.
Kane turns away from Doris and blows a kiss into the phone, to which Doris digs faster, before jumping into her invisible hole and pantomiming burying herself.
Right, so I'm hanging up now. I'll hear from you soon. Love you. Remember, no matter what it is, we can work it out. I know that, in my heart. So, that's how I know it. In my...
Doris, now covered in imaginary dirt, mimes struggling for air.
Anyway, plane's leaving now, so call me back or send me a text. Love you.
Kane hangs up and gives Doris a look of pity.
She'll call back.
The only call she'll be making is to the phone company to change her number. Fast.
At this moment, she's full of regret.
The only thing she's regretting is that she didn't send her message half an hour later when you were already on the plane. Generation Y. As in, why don't they listen? Why don't they care? Why were they ever born?
What makes you such an expert?
I'm a woman.
From the sounds of it, you're not one to be dishing out relationship advice. How many husbands have you had?
Just left number 5.
Lacking a little credibility. So if you won't mind, I'm going to plug back into my iPod and wait for Celeste to call me back.
Doris waits for a moment, staring at Kane, then looking around the terminal before looking back at Kane.
Of course, none of my business. You just listen to your tunes, I'll just...
Doris begins to wander away while Kane sits back down and puts his earphones back in.
Celeste is a nice name. Guess she's French.
Doris turns to Kane.
Is she French?
Realizing he can't hear her, she turns back, talking with the empty air.
Didn't mean to butt in. That's why husband number 3 left me.
She turns back to Kane.
It's just that you look so upset. Like your mum died. Or your dog.
She rolls her eyes at his obliviousness and resumes talking to herself.
I hope my kids are that upset when I die. Sure he might be. Brett won't give a crap. Hates me. Daddy's little boy. Didn't even send me an email for Christmas. I sent him a cricket bat signed by Sachin Tendulkar.
She looks at Kane again.
All the way from Goa.
I can't hear you.
Do you know he once told me they were holding Brett's birthday party at the wrong place?
I'm not listening to
I
a
turned
word
up
you
with
say.
the cake and everything, and the bloke just looks at me. No party here, he says. But it's my son's birthday. He's 7. I've gotten him a...
Kane sighs, taking out his earphones and getting up, walking over to Doris and putting his hand on her shoulder. Doris yelps in surprise, knocking over her bag as she jumps up. Her things scatter across the floor.
My goodness! What'd you do that for?
I was just trying to...
Scare me to death?
I'm sorry. I'll help you.
I'm just sitting here minding my own business.
Okay, I said sorry.
You said you didn't want to talk.
I'm helping, all right.
Creeping up on me. Give me a...
Look, lady, I'm sorry, but you wouldn't stop talking. Now give me a hand and help me pick up this stuff.
Together, they pick up the rest of Doris's things.
No need to get snippy.
I know how your son feels. If my mum was half as annoying as you, I wouldn't talk to her either.
All right. Calm down. Just shouldn't sneak up on people.
Well, you shouldn't talk to your bag.
I wasn't talking to my bag. Well, who else is going to listen anyway?
They finish repacking the bag.
Yikes, how much stuff you got in there?
Too much.
Why didn't you check it?
Are you kidding? It's too heavy. They'll charge me excess.
The jet-setting bag, lady.
I'll take that as a compliment.
And in answer to your question, yes, Celeste is French. We met in Thailand about 6 months ago, and we fell madly in love. At least I thought we were madly in love. Then I came over here to Paris, the city of lights, city of love, for 2 weeks. The most amazing 2 weeks of my life. Then I heard from the airport, she sends me a text. Dear Kane.
Is that your real name?
What's wrong with it?
With a K? Sure it's not a C?
I know how to spell my own name.
Who calls their kid Kane? And they reckon I'm a bad mother.
May I?
Oh, by all means, continue.
Dear Kane, the last fortnight has been wonderful, but in my heart I know it's not going to work out between us. Please don't try to contact me again. I'm sorry. Bon voyage. C. Bon voyage? Who writes like that?
Well, Celeste does, for one. I reckon he's Spanish.
Who?
The other guy.
There isn't another guy.
In any breakup, there's always another guy. Or girl.
There is no other guy, Spanish or otherwise.
Spanish guys are hot. I remember once I met this matador called Manuel.
You know, I really don't want to hear.
Flight QF3977 to Singapore is now boarding all passengers at gate number 11.
Thank God for that.
I'm Doris, by the way.
She holds out her hand.
Nice to have met you, Doris.
Kane says, shaking her hand.
And you, Kane. What seat have you got?
49E.
Well, what do you know? 49F.
You're kidding.
Looks like we've got lots of time to get acquainted.
Kane heads for the exit.
Oh, and Kane. You can thank me later.
What for?
I'll stop you from calling Celeste again.
Who said I was going to... Thanks.
Kane heads into the tunnel leading to the plane. Doris goes to pick up her bag.
My God, this is heavy.
She tries once more, unsuccessfully, to pick up the bag. Kane walks back into the terminal and picks up the bag, wincing as he slings it over his back.
Croc! They'll never let you carry this on.
What do you mean, me? I'm telling him it belongs to you.
Doris speeds up, leaving Kane to struggle with the bag as he tries to catch up.
The end. That was Text Messages Hurt More When You're at the Airport by Alex Broun. The part of the narrator and the gate attendant was played by Dave Matsui, the part of Doris was played by Kat Miller, and the part of Kane was played by Walter Lutsch. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and you guys can listen to a word from our sponsors. Enjoy.
Welcome to Arnie's School of Dialects, where you can learn any accent for any part. Want to sound like a British gentleman? Tally-ho, what? Let's get this pot of tea, chap. Or what about Australian? Good day, mate. Let's rustle up a steak for the barbie. Yeah, then we'll go to Paris and do some French. Let's get a croissant and climb the Tower Eiffel. Hey, director of the school, what are you doing here?
I'm sorry, Arnie. We're gonna have to shut down the school.
But why? My accents, they are so good.
But, Arnie, they all sound the same. There's no actual variety in your accents. Let's get him out of here, guys. Start shutting down.
But I was just perfecting my German. Was is good, yeah.
Welcome back, guys. Hope you enjoyed that word from our sponsors. And for our next play of the evening, we have The Banana Man by Dwayne Yancey.
A man and a woman are sitting at a sports bar counter. The counter is filled with other patrons watching a game on the television. However, the man and the woman are paying no attention to the TV, as the man relates his recent experience to the woman.
I've never been so humiliated in my whole life.
By which part?
What do you mean, which part? You were there?
You mean the part where you were dressed as a banana, or the part where you weren't?
You know which part I mean.
I think being dressed up as a banana in front of thousands of people would be humiliating enough.
I'm a mascot. I needed a job.
The team's not called the Bananas, so why do they need someone dressed up as one?
I don't know. People think bananas are fun, I guess.
It didn't look like much fun last night.
I got hit in the head by a foul ball.
You should have been more careful.
There's no peripheral vision in the thing. It's like being in a spacesuit.
It's a baseball stadium. You knew the risks.
That's not the part that was humiliating, and you know it.
Oh, so being sprawled out there flat on your back in a banana suit, that wasn't humiliating?
That was embarrassing. It wasn't humiliating.
I see. Interesting.
Being splayed out there flat on my back, not in a banana suit. Now that was humiliating.
They had to take it off to check your pulse, or something like that.
They didn't have to take off the whole thing.
And you didn't have to take off all your clothes before you got into it.
It's hot in there. Besides, they weren't all off.
That's true. You were wearing a thong.
I never should have taken this job.
I think the crowd liked the leopard print, though.
The man looks at the woman, then buries his head in his hands and cries. Suddenly, the other bar patrons begin cheering. The woman looks up at the television to see what they are cheering at.
Oh, look! You made the highlights on Sports Center.
The man starts to wail.
That was The Banana Man by Dwayne Yancey. The part of the narrator was played by Walter Lutsch, the part of the man was played by David Matsui, and the part of the woman was played by Kat Miller. And for our final play of the evening,
We're going to go to our next exciting episode of our continuing weekly serials, The Adventures of Stanley and Bubba.
Last week on The Adventures of Stanley and Bubba, Stanley, an ancient demon-hunting monkey, forced to pretend that he is a stuffed toy, has discovered a demon disguised as a plastic flamingo. After witnessing the flamingo attack the humans who live in the apartment with him, Stanley has formed an alliance with his frequent opponent Bubba, a monk from a distant land trapped in the form of a Buddha statue. Together they hope to defeat the interloper, who bears a striking resemblance to an ancient evil Bubba once fought. This is the Bead Quest, Part 4.
Stanley understood the plan. Or did he? Bubba wasn't completely sure. Bubba had finished sketching the plan of escaping the sanctuary a short while ago and now sat atop the slave box, re-examining his plan for flaws. He had been surprised by the monkey's show of affection over his plan. "He is a strange monkey," thought Bubba, rubbing away at a lingering spot of soot. "Affection is not a word I would have associated with him. Truthfully, I had believed he was lunging for the beads. A very strange monkey indeed." However, Stanley and his unusual actions were not essential to the plan. What was essential, however, was whether the monkey was going to follow Bubba's plan. If Stanley could not, or would not follow Bubba's instructions, then the consequences would be more than Bubba wished to consider. The hug, though, that was a sign from the monkey. Yes, it had to be. Stanley had demonstrated his willingness to follow Bubba. That was what it had meant. There were two other parts to the plan demanding consideration. One of them was the pink demon. He couldn't be sure how powerful the creature was. He knew it was unwise to think his enemy completely helpless. He also believed, however, the pink creature was not greater than the demon of the hills. And, if he could, in his inexperienced youth, drive away such a terrible creature as that, he felt confident that with his greater power and experience he could defeat this demon as well. While he still felt the uneasy presence of a creature whenever he meditated, and the strange loss of mental discipline, he refused to allow them to stop him. For all he knew, defeating the creature outside might be the only way to restore the balance. "I will fight this evil, and rid it from these lands, as I did long ago." Bubba floated down from atop the slave box, now assured of his decision. He rolled over to Stanley, who was inspecting the black hole above the fire pit. "Monkey, it is time. Are you sure you're ready to face this demon creature?" Stanley chattered back at him, and while he only understood a few words, Bubba was reasonably certain he understood the meaning. "Oh, monkey, I was born ready." Stanley cocked his head to one side. "I heard it in one of those American stories told on the slave box." Stanley chattered back something that Bubba didn't quite catch as the monkey leaped onto Bubba's shoulders. Bubba started to ask Stanley to repeat his words, but decided against it. Bubba muttered to himself as they rose up and into the chimney. "No time for words, only action." Bubba pushed himself higher and higher until he felt himself tiring. Reaching the limit of his ability to levitate, Stanley seemed to sense the fatigue, and the monk felt the little monkey's body coiling together for the jump. Just as Bubba began to lose ground, Stanley leapt from Bubba's shoulders and scrambled for purchase on the ledge. Bubba sank quickly back to ground level, hoping that his ally could make the rest of the journey on his own. He rolled carefully toward the invisible gates, positioning himself near where the glass parted from the wall, awaiting Stanley's arrival outside. A little bird was hopping in the grass and in the outside world this morning. Bubba gazed at it peacefully, trying to calm himself before the fight. The bird hopped, searching through the grass, and hopped again. Suddenly, Bubba noticed the demon stalking the bird. He started shouting for the bird to watch out, but the bird didn't seem to notice him. Thankfully, the bird did notice the demon behind it, and flew off before the evil creature had a chance to pounce. Bubba sighed, and then glared at the demon. The sooner they got rid of this creature, the better. A tapping from above the monk interrupted his thoughts. A startled Bubba looked up to see Stanley staring down at him from atop the white box right outside the invisible gates. The monkey tipped his body horizontally, so that it was scrunched between the white box and the invisible gates. Then gruntingly, chattering, Stanley pushed. The invisible gate, at first, refused to move, but with a little extra grunting, it finally budged open slightly. Bubba felt a slight chilly breeze strike him, as he, too, shoved against the invisible gate. With a reluctant shriek it came open. Bubba thanked Buddha that his owners were snoring, otherwise he and Stanley would have been in big trouble. Stanley dropped down, chattering excitedly, as Bubba stepped across the threshold into the outside world. He inhaled a great bunch of it and let it fill his lungs. By now the demon had noticed them and was staring at them, not approaching, just staring. Stanley chattered angrily, swiping his paw in the demon's direction. Bubba placed his hand on Stanley's shoulder as he spoke. "It would be most beneficial, Stanley, if you would let me talk with this creature first. That means I need you to move behind me. A quizzical look flashed across Stanley's previously angered face, but he seemed to understand the gesture of Bubba pointing behind him. And while he didn't seem to like it, he obeyed and stepped behind Bubba. A little farther, Stanley. Your presence might still be threatening. Stanley advanced backwards again, and then again as Bubba gestured for him to do so. Now Stanley was sitting just inside the sanctuary behind Bubba. Very good, monkey. Then with a mighty heave, Bubba slammed the invisible gates in Stanley's face. Bubba watched as Stanley's expression changed from one of both extreme surprise and a painful sadness born of betrayal. I am sorry, Stanley, but I cannot have you on the battlefield with me today. If I lost control of my own power, you would be at risk. It is best that I do this alone. Bubba turned around to face the demon. As he did so, he thought he heard a faint chattering behind him, a desperate chattering, pleading to open the door, but Bubba wasn't sure. This was quickly followed by an angry chattering. Bubba smiled as he gathered the beads in his hand and concentrated on his inner peace, so that he could channel the power of Buddha. He felt a rush fill his body, and then a peace came over him. As he opened his eyes, he looked up. The creature still stared at him. Bubba matched his gaze, and once again saw the demon that now plagued his daily meditations. It was time. Then, suddenly the creature spoke.
That was a foolish decision, monk, leaving your only ally behind, daring to face me alone. Buddha's wisdom has failed you.
Do not concern yourself with my ally's well-being, demon. Worry only for yourself. You have fought with no cause, and the creatures that also call this place their home. Therefore you must go from this place. I am only here to assure your disappearance.
Go. You believe you can make me go. Monk, even if you had it in your power to do so, I am only one of many. You are of no concern to us.
If you will not leave peacefully, demon, then I must resort to measures I take no pleasure in using.
Oh, monk, you are a fool if you believe that you can defeat me.
Demon, you know not of what you say. I will teach you the way of the Buddha.
Then prepare to be truly enlightened, monk.
Bubba started rolling towards the creature, speeding up quickly, tearing through the grass. Certain that he would run into the creature, Bubba was surprised when he felt himself crashing into the wooden walls that enclosed the outside world. He looked up at the smiling, unharmed creature.
You are much too slow, monk. Your years of meditation have made you weak.
Focusing his chi, Bubba began to levitate, but instead of the steady rise he normally employed, he exerted his power and shot straight up until he could almost no longer see the creature. Then he released his focus on the chi. No longer wishing to defy the planet's natural law, he sank from the sky with ever-increasing swiftness. The ground shook slightly with Bubba's impact, and a small crater was left. He shook off the landing only to see the creature had moved again, still unharmed. It smiled smugly at him. Bubba glared, and again, gathering his chi, barreled towards the creature. This time, he saw the creature dodge, moving slightly to the left. But Bubba moved as well. Still in his roll, he slightly levitated himself off the ground and flew straight into the creature's face. The creature stumbled back, its face noticeably bruised. It snapped at Bubba angrily and charged. Bubba was caught off guard by its speed, underestimating its scrawny stick legs. This creature swiped its beak at him, and Bubba reached out an arm to shield his face. He felt the scraping of a beak against his skin, and he cried out. Then his arm began to burn. He looked down to see the old scar upon his arm glowing hotly. The presence, the imbalance Bubba had worked so hard to suppress, was suddenly free. Bubba again flew at the creature, refusing to be down so easily. This time he stretched out his fists, beads in hand, ready to chant. However, his arm suddenly dropped, limp, mid-flight. Bubba crashed into the creature, stunned. He had it pinned down and tried to maneuver his elbow enough to point the beads at the creature, but something held the muscles in his arm back.
Foolish monk, your arm is no longer your own. It has been poisoned and responds only to my will.
To Bubba's horror, he saw the creature was right. He watched, stunned, as its arm moved of its own accord, his fist drawing back. He knew what was going to happen. He could feel his muscles coiling, preparing to hurl the sacred beads away. No! As his own hand betrayed him, Bubba tried to grab the beads with his other hands, but it was too late. They sailed away off into the bushes that sat in front of the wooden wall. He heard a snort from beneath him and looked down to see the creature gazing up at him, its beak lifted in a bizarre facsimile of a smile. Bubba still sat atop the flamingo's Pink's chest. He decided then that if he could not vanquish the creature, he'd smash it. But before he could take the action, the demon threw him off. Bubba landed hard against the ground, his head spinning. He tried to get up, but he found he was too dizzy. Suddenly, the creature's ugly face loomed over his.
I told you, monk. You cannot defeat me.
The creature then swung its head down against Bubba's skull. Their heads collided with a cracking sound, and Bubba's world went black.
For the first few seconds, Stanley sinks into despair as he watches Bubba's approach the enemy alone. He gives one piercing cry, begging the Buddha to open the door and let him join the fight, before he channels his sadness into fury. Leaping and scratching at the portal to the backyard, he runs the entire length of it, simultaneously watching the battle outside begin and searching anew for a way to join it. As Bubba begins to attack the evil puffbird, Stanley does anything he can think of to help, including calling insults at the flamingo in an effort to distract it. Despite his efforts, the evil bird remains focused on destroying Bubba. The ancient monkey watches helplessly as Bubba tries everything to damage the demonic bundle of pink feathers, only succeeding in hurting it once, before the flamingo succeeds in slashing the statue on the arm. Instantly, Stanley shoots to the black tunnel through which he had managed to get outside the last time. Without even thinking about what he is doing, Stanley begins climbing, hopping from one side to the other, swinging himself up higher every time he switches from wall to wall. Before he realizes that he is succeeding in scaling the walls, he is up and onto the top of the dwelling. In his passion to get to his friend in time, he had climbed the tunnel without knowing how he was accomplishing it. Sprinting as fast as he can on his four legs, he runs to the edge of the plateau, peering over the edge at the puffbird and Bubba. To his dismay, he watches the Buddha fling his beads into the bushes, and he shakes his head in confusion. Something must have forced the statue to throw away his precious beads. Something is not as it should be with his ally. Without thinking twice, Stanley the monkey launches himself into the air, watching even as he hurtles toward the ground as Bubba is knocked unconscious by the evil flamingo. Screaming in rage, he falls straight onto the demonic creature, slamming it to the ground. Hopping lightly off the dazed bird, he gives only a second's thought to attempting to finish the evil thing off right here and now, before running over to Bubba. He had watched the Bubba's battle with the puffbird, and if the Buddha could not defeat it with all his power, Stanley would only have a slightly better chance. Stopping just short of running over his friend, Stanley grabs Bubba's paw, tugging him toward the portal to the dwelling. When he finds he cannot pull him, Stanley chatters in frustration and puts his paws to the statue's side, and with a mighty shove, begins rolling him toward the invisible portal. He has to grab onto the statue and force his friend to a stop when he sees Dave enter sight of the gates. Chattering in frustration at the unbelievably horrible luck they are having, Stanley reverses his course, pushing his rolling friend past the still groggy flamingo, to which Stanley mutters an insult as he passes. Pushing as much as he can with his paws, Stanley finds himself circumnavigating the building. In his mind, he reconstructs the layout of their dwelling, coming to the conclusion that he might be able to reach the other portal Dave uses constantly if he rolls Bubba almost completely around the building. Indeed, as he comes around one of the corners, he recognizes the view from outside the glass in Dave's sanctuary, and following his mental chart of the dwelling, he pushes Bubba around yet another corner. There he sees the green-painted other side of the portal he knows so well. Rolling Bubba carefully down the carved stone stairs, he tries not to bounce him too much, and once he reaches the bottom, he races around to stop the rolling statue. Tucking Bubba safely around a corner and out of sight, Stanley sets his sights on how to get the door open. With a sigh, Stanley commits to the only course of action he can think of that will get them back into the dwelling unnoticed.
Dave looks up in surprise at a quiet knocking at the door. Getting up from the couch, he pauses the TV and goes to the door. Opening it, he finds no one there.
Huh.
He says, checking the little clip by the door for any mail someone might have left him before heading back to the couch, leaving the door to shut on its own. He is just about to sit down when he hears a loud crack come from the dining room area. Alarmed, he walks over to the dining room table, suspecting that the crack may have come from the antiquated wooden legs. Worried that it may be falling apart, he bends down to check it out.
Stanley winces, even though he feels no pain, as he holds his arm in the path of the swinging door. Hanging from the space above the portal, he had knocked on the metal-like object, reproducing the sound he had heard many times before, and waited for Dave to open the door. As soon as his owner had opened it to admit the non-existing visitor, Stanley had climbed closer to the space where the door would close, and as it swung shut, Stanley had stuck his arm in its path, transforming that arm to the accursed, but sometimes useful, disguise of Jungle, the monkey. Throwing a small stone he had found with his other arm, he gets Dave to move away from the door as he presumes he has closed it. Pushing and pulling his way down the door frame, Stanley chatters quietly and nervous as he rushes to grab another nearby stone. He pushes with all his might and succeeds in opening the door just wide enough for Bubba to pass through. Lodging the stone under the door so it does not close, Stanley runs back for the statue, pushing him around the corner and through the door. He settles Bubba slightly askew at the bottom of the picture box and jumps onto the statue's usual perch, transforming into his inanimate disguise, just as Dave notices the open door and once more returns to the front portal of his dwelling.
Stupid gravel getting stuck in the door.
Dave said to himself as he shakes his head, kicking the stone out from under the door. Turning back around after he had made sure the door closed, he spies Bubba lying on his side on the floor in front of his TV.
Now how did you get there?
He says as he picks the statue up and puts him back on his TV, next to the monkey.
There. Watch the door for any intruders, Bubba. And you too, monkey.
Dave comments before returning to his television.
Stanley sighs quietly in relief that his ploy was successful. Now, however, they must once again attempt a battle with the evil Puffbird, and this time they will have to attempt it without Bubba's beads. Stanley knows how important they were to his statue friend, a source of strength and power now lying discarded out in the bushes. Glancing over in the flamingo's general direction, Stanley narrows his eyes in anger, chattering very quietly about the revenge he will wreak upon the pile of pink feathers.
That was The Bead Quest, Part 4, written by Dave Matsui and Walter Lutsch. And right now we're going to go to a special PSA from someone you know very well.
Hello, this is Stanley the Demon Hunter. While our stories are slightly over-dramatized, demons are a very real threat. Now, I've gotten a few more calls on the hotline alerting me to demonic writing in classrooms all over the country. I'd just like everyone to know that I've investigated these rumors, and those aren't demonic runes. They're calculus. And no, your math teacher is not a demon. And also, Annie from Wisconsin, I can't come and check under your bed for demons. That's a job for your parents. Now, if your father gets attacked when he looks under your bed, then let me know. Remember, if you see an actual demon, call 1-800-STANLEY-KILLS-ALL-THE-DEMONS. Thank you. Goodbye.
Remember, that's 1-800-782-6539-5455-7255-8433366667.
Hey guys, welcome back. So that's all we've got for you tonight, and that was fun getting to have you here, so we're signing off for the night.
But remember, if you enjoy the adventures of Stanley and Bubba, please come back next week for the next exciting episode. I'm Walter Lutsch.
I'm David Matsui.
I'm Kat Miller.
And we're signing off for the night. Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Good night.